So
Okay.
when I was in eighth grade, I knew I wanted to be in advertising. I figured it out very young. And so when it came time for college, I didn't want to go to college because I already knew what I wanted to do. So my parents weren't too happy about that, but they knew, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So
Exactly.
I was able to talk my way into getting a job at an ad agency. And throughout my life, I've just used my creativity to get my foot in the door to various opportunities.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown British Columbia and the city Prince George, the capital of northern British Columbia. Beautiful day in northern BC, a little bit on the cool side. It's no snow yet, and we have a very special guest, and her name is Alexandra Watkins, and she is a chief executive boss lady. Uh, Eat My Words is the company, and she is an author, a public speaker in demand, actually, and she is located in San Diego, California. And welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, and I looked at your bio, and you deal in particular in mywords.com. My Words is the model of your business or what you have been quite involved in. It was a lot of companies actually. The naming of a product, a company, or anything other than that is always a program for that matter is critically important, and obviously you have made a career out of it and done very well doing it. So tell us first a little bit about yourself and how you got started and where you were located.
Okay, well, I'm located in San Diego, California, about a mile from the beach, and I live in my Barbie dream house. I made the pool house my office. I'm looking out over a pool with two giant pink flamingos named Maui and Wowie. I do believe in naming everything. So, how I got started is I was an advertising copywriter for a very long time. And every once in a while, I would get thrown a bone and get to name something. And I love naming. I was good at it, but I had no idea that naming was actually a profession. And when I finally figured that out, I switched gears and I told everyone I'm a professional namer, and I just started doing it. And here I am 20 years later.
So you started writing for a magazine for a long time?
No, advertising. I was a
At,
copywriter.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
copywriter for and so and then when was it that you started in 2005?
Oh my gosh, no, I'm really old. I'm going to be 60 in like a month and a half.
Oh, you look great.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah, you
you.
look great.
Thank you. All that California sunshine and lots of
So
sunscreen.
and then for the record, I'm 83, and today is my birthday, November the
Oh,
1st.
happy birthday. Happy birthday. That's
Thank you.
awesome. November 1st.
Yes, and I live like I will be 120. So that is the plan, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well as to living healthy and doing all of those kind of things. But let's first talk about the naming profession. I didn't know it was a profession. It makes a lot of sense to me, and because we find ourselves in a situation. Also, I should add to this: you're also an author.
Hmm.
So you're being very, very active in your business, and then the companies that you're being involved with are big names. I see Amazon in there, Xerox, and a number of other companies. How does that
Yeah.
work? So they call you, or they you obviously build a reputation, and then how does I know how a lawyer works, how business people work, but how do you develop? So I want you to name my new company that I'm going to start, whenever, and this is the products, and this is, obviously you want to know what it is. How do we decide the price?
Oh, the price? Well, the price, it depends. So we have different packages. So, for
Okay.
instance, if you're a consumer products company and we're naming products, and I know that you have your own, all the big CPG companies we work for have their own in-house legal department. So we don't do any trademark screening. So that factors into the price. So, like for a CPG company, it would be like 17.5 for a big fat round of names. But if I'm naming a company, that's going to be about 27.5 to name a
Okay.
company.
Okay.
But then I also work with small businesses where I have a package called Fun Size. All my packages have fun names, by the way. So Fun Size is just what it says. It's a fun size serving of names, and that's 5 grand.
And then I'm an author as well. So I wrote a book, and then it's always a question of, okay, what should it be named? And because again, that is very, very important, because at the end of the day, a book sells usually by its presentation of how it looks sitting in the rack or in the airport or wherever it is. I've done so far 3 books. I'm doing 2 more that come out next year. So the one that I did is this one, Against All Odds.
Hmm.
How does it look so far?
Love the title.
Yeah, you like it? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So the other one that I did is I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. I'm also ADHD, and so it took me a long time to find out. I'll give you the story a little bit later, but I wrote a book about that as well, and I called it ADHD Unlocked. How do you like that?
Yep, it's good. My partner has ADHD, and so yeah, I think that would be appealing.
So we'll get him a book. I'll send you copies of these books. I sign them all, and I'll send an extra one for your partner.
Oh, thank you.
So another one that I did in July actually came out, and I always found that there's so many people, they don't know what to do. What are you going to do for a career? I don't know. So you're going to go to university? Yeah. So what are you going to take? I don't know yet. And then some other people make choices and they say, I'm not very happy with what I'm doing. It's a change. And then the other part is that I saw some statistics from the States. We're watching the States very closely. Not so much the politics, I don't like that much, but no, I'm just joking. But in any event, so that the statistics said that 70% of the people that work don't like the jobs.
Isn't that crazy?
And,
That's
se-
insane.
and 75% of the 70 are looking for another job. And the more
Wow.
I heard about it, it was on one of the major medias, I forget now which one, but thinking about it more and more, I believe that is the case. And then, but the other thing that I found is that how unfortunate it is that if you don't find the right job or the job that you like or hobbies that you can have, that at least every day is a nice day, relatively speaking. And so I felt I write a book about it, the importance of finding the right job. And so that came out on July the 19th. I'll send a copy of that to you. Finding your
Wait,
passion, living the
wait.
dream.
Oh, good. Oh, I like that. Yeah, yeah, that's
Is,
good.
is that a good one? And
Yeah,
so
and that's what appealed to coming on your podcast because I found my passion and I've been living my dream my entire life.
and that's usually when I talk about the book, then I always say, and then it would be the right thing to do to ask me, and so John, with all the things that you've done, and they're all in here actually. It's a book that it took me a long time to decide to write it. So I lived it for 80 years. Writing books is difficult. I thought
Yeah.
about it for 20. I started, stopped, and then it took me 2 years to write it. And it's not hurrah, hurrah, how suggested John is, but the other one was all the ups and downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And at the end, it all kind of works out okay, but it was quite a challenge. People like the book. I will send you a copy of it, obviously, and it's all about that. The other part that I was going to tell you about me is that, so those are the titles, and it took me time to think about it. I'm writing another one. Obviously, as you already noticed, is that it's my birthday today. I'm 83. I do pretty good for 83. I still run about 10 different companies. I'm an author. I'm an in-demand public speaker. And then I'm fairly active in podcasting. You're number 175. And we do a lot of being guests as well. So a lot of time people say to me, how do you do all of this? I say ADHD. I can do 20 things all at the same time. So the other one that I'm writing, and again, kind of bouncing this by you as title, is that, as I said, tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but I'm living like, I'm very conscientious about my diet. I go to the gym. I compete at bodybuilding and physique in 2018 when I was already 68 years old. And started competing, and then I became won here in Northern BC, came second bodybuilding, third in physique, qualified me for the provincial, did the same in the provincial level, then qualified for the nationals and the Arnolds. Not bad. And then and then COVID came, and now I'm working again on training, and so when I'm 84, Arnold already has invited me to come down to again compete in the Arnolds, and so I'm working towards that to go there again. So I'm supposedly the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America. So I like that.
Wow, that's amazing. Are you from Austria?
No, I'm from Holland.
Oh, you're from Holland. Okay.
I am.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I came here when I was 24, and with nothing. And so the reason that I came here, I'm drifting a little bit away from your story, but while we talking, so I was, as I said, born November the 1st, 1940, in northeastern Holland. Have you been in Holland?
Yes.
Yeah, because you've been all over the world, because I saw it in your bio. So we'll talk about that as well. But in any event, I was born there. So, and as you already know, that was the Second World War. And things were pretty tough in that region. My dad had been drafted into the Dutch army, and he was drafted in April of 1940. My mom had 3 kids. I was not born yet until November. My sister was 1 year older, my brother 2 years older. So they had quite a struggle to get through the war years, and especially 2004, 44 and 45 was considered to be the hunger winter, and a lot of vulnerable people, like young people, old people, died because of no food, and it was extremely cold. And I still remember the parts from the time that I was 3.5, 4 years old, hundreds of planes in the air, anxiety because my mom was alone, and we used to go into the train yards with gunny bags, when I was 5, my sister 6 and 7, every morning we would go in there, pick up anything edible and burnable, and why did we go? Because the Germans wouldn't shoot us, they would boot us one in the back, but then we were just back in the following day. But still, I can still feel the feeling of hunger, always stays with you, and the feeling of cold, and then the anxiety of being the only parent, and the fear of losing her, created the inner child. And I had counseling for that actually in my late 50s. Very emotional actually. And if I look around the world, especially now we are close to Remembrance Day, here the November the 11th. I speak to numbers of schools about why the silence, what does it really mean, how fortunate we are, and how quickly things can change. And it's a very appropriate topic, especially now. If you look around the world, we look at the Ukraine, and then we look at the things that are happening, obviously, and in the Middle East, so with Israel and all the other countries there that, and Iran in particular, that it's an extremely delicate time. And then what comes in particular to my mind, because I was affected by it with PTSD as well as the inner child, and that always stays with you to a certain extent. And I certainly saw that in my family. My dad, that was gone for 5 years, and it changes families and everything around you. It's not so the war is over today, so tomorrow everything is back to normal. No, that could take 1 to 2 generations. And
Wow.
so those kind of things. But then the other part that I was going to tell you a little bit about is that we were liberated by the Canadians April the 12th, 1945. And it made such an impression on me that I always knew I would go to Canada, the land of my heroes. And then I was not very successful academically. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. I got a job when I was 14. And then I felt I could do better. A lot of my friends went to the college and to university, and I became a laborer. I'm proud of that now, but then it was kind of looked down on. And so I wanted to start all new and with nothing. So I left Holland when I was 24 with a suitcase, 2 sets of clothes, 3 books, and $150. And I wanted to go to British Columbia because I wanted to. The other dream that I had is to start my own lumber mill, and the trees are all here. And I'm sure you have been in British Columbia. I came to Vancouver, went to the immigration office. There was a German fellow. I couldn't speak English, didn't know a soul, didn't have a job, and I told him what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a lumber mill. He said, Prince George. That's where I am now for nearly 60 years. Because that's where all the trees were, that's where all the sawmills are, and it was a boom town. And so by the time I came off the bus here, the Greyhound, in Prince George, about 3 blocks away from us here, I walked off the bus and my employees gave me this. And I had $25.47. And could speak the language, didn't have a job, didn't know a soul. But I had attitude. I will, if it's a bad day today, I will swear it's going to be a great day tomorrow. If it rains today and I want sunshine, it's going to be sunshine tomorrow. There's no one that's going to talk me out of that. I avoid the negative. I have a passion for all the things that I do. And then work ethic, no one works harder than me. And what follows that is success. And I use this a lot in my presentations that I do, especially with young people, about they say, I don't know what to do, and this is wrong, and that is wrong. I say, how lucky we are. We live in paradise in all of North America, really, and especially when you look around the world. So the other part that I was going to just mention quickly is that the other book that I'm doing, because I'm kind of throwing a lot of names on you, is that I believe that growing old is great, and everything is possible. 100 and even 120, but I usually say I live like I want to be 120. I'm very careful with my diet, very thoughtful about it. Fortunately, my wife is very much she's a vegan, but very thoughtful in terms of looking at what can we do, what is progressive self-help in particular, and being aware. And then obviously I try to keep my body in good shape and condition. So I'm writing a book that is coming out in July next year, and here comes the title: Living Young, Dying Old.
I love it.
You like it? You know,
Yes, it's good.
as it comes,
It's really good.
then it comes out, you get a copy of it. You know.
I love it. Living young, dying old. That's what people want.
Exactly, and it shows a picture on the front. We have the cover already. I don't have it here, I don't think, but it shows me and my posing doing one of my shows. You know, and that was when I was well into my late 70s already.
Wow. You have lived a life.
Well, British Columbia is a beautiful province. North America is beautiful. I'm also in the lumber business. We do a lot of business in the United States, and the company that I started out small with 3 employees. Now we have one, two, three different, four different mills, lumber mills here. We are into warehousing, distribution, and logistics, and as another silo, and then real estate, both residential, commercial, and industrial. But so there are lots of opportunities, and I've taken advantage of it, obviously. And then doing all of this, it's only 5, 6 years ago that I started writing books and became more active. And then 2 years ago, just before COVID, I started to become active in interacting on the social media. Podcasting was not overly much out there then, but I did it on a local, regional area, and then started really during COVID. I started podcasting, and obviously being very active in podcasting. And I do about between 13 and 15 podcasts a month, about 3 a week, with one where I'm podcasting and the other one where I'm a guest to others. And we have had very, very interesting persons from all over the world, including you, obviously. And I enjoy it a lot, so.
Wow, you have really created an interesting life for yourself.
I love it. So
I can
even
tell. You're living the dream.
I'm living the dream. So what I usually do, Andrea, is I get up usually at 5:30 in the morning, and I always think I'm late. And and then when I get up, I always make my bed, and then I just like I said, I always think I'm late. And most of the days I'm very active in all kinds of things that go on, and that's kind of what I do. But I love it. And
I
then
can tell. I can tell.
so tell us a little bit more about you and Awesome that you wrote, and how did you get to write the book that kind of followed, in a sense, your career, right? Because you were already an advertisement writer, and the one followed the other, right?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little bit of my backstory. So
Okay.
when I was in eighth grade, I knew I wanted to be in advertising. I figured it out very young. And so when it came time for college, I didn't want to go to college because I already knew what I wanted to do. So my parents weren't too happy about that, but they knew, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So
Exactly.
I was able to talk my way into getting a job at an ad agency. And throughout my life, I've just used my creativity to get my foot in the door to various opportunities. So the book, so I, was an advertising copywriter, then I became a namer, and the book fell in my lap. So most people, when they write a book, they write the book, and then now they self-publish. But for a long time, they would go look for, an agent, and then shop the book around, find a publisher. But I lucked out. I had a publisher approach me to write the book, and I did not want to write a book. My
Oh,
parents were both authors, and I knew it was a lot of work for not a lot of money. So I was very resistant to it, but I went in and I met with the publisher and decided that it could be a good thing for business. And I'm really glad that I said yes. because it's been phenomenal for business. Most of my clients come through reading my book.
Wow.
And so yeah, so that's how the book happened, and that's how just I've been able to. I don't feel like I've ever wasted a day of my career doing something that I wasn't meant to do.
Right. Now you're also active as a speaker, and you're quite in demand. So, what are the topics that you speak about? And you seem to have an humoristic side to that as well.
Yeah, I well, I believe that humor is very good at engaging people and keeping them
I agree.
interested and right. So, and you want them to leave your presentation feeling like, wow. And so I do that by, yes, I speak about brand names, how to create brand names that stick. I inject all of my talks with a lot of humor and fun stories, and a lot of the names that we do are very fun. So, for instance, I named a frozen yogurt franchise Spoon Me, or I named a cupcake store the Church of Cupcakes. I named a GPS for dogs Retriever, robotic vacuum Neato. So our style of names are very fun, and people find those enjoyable. And also, like when I show before and afters, those are, everybody loves a makeover. And so our name makeovers are very exciting and oftentimes fun. And yeah, I just also I have really colorful, sexy slides. So that's another way just to keep people engaged.
Right. So what I saw is Amazon and Xerox. So what did you do with Amazon?
With Amazon, I help them name a new home services program.
Okay.
The name, and then with Xerox, I help them name a new printer technology.
You see, these companies are so huge. To get in the door is not easy. And one of the things that I found interesting is I had one of the senior people from Amazon that was involved with them from 2002 to 2006. That was the period when Jeff Bezos redirected the company from selling books, included all the other things, and the company exploded from that point forward. And I found Jeff Bezos always very interesting. I've been trying to get him on my podcast, but I got that person that was a senior VP individual involved, and found out some interesting things about Amazon. And I was not sure if you had connections. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he named it Cadabra initially.
Right,
And and
right.
and so then what happened is, and you know the story, but our guests maybe would like it. Then this lawyer screwed up the name and used cadaver. And so after about 3 months, he decided that was not the name, and so they
Oh, that's,
then
oh,
and then
oh, I
they
apologize.
and then what he said, no, we're gonna have to find a different name. By the time they figured it out, cadaver, rather than cadaver bar, so then they came up. He said it has to start with an A, so it's on top of the list, and so that's where Amazon came from, really, and
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's not the story I heard. The story I heard, and I heard this from Disney when I was working with Disney on a project, was that Cadabra was originally going to be the name, but the Spanish translation of it was way too close to the word cadaver. So he decided not to do Cadabra.
Okay, then it sounded similar. So that's the way, as I said,
Yeah.
that's the way I picked. But it was
Yeah.
then, but interesting, but a good example, Alexandra, of saying naming is very, very important. And there you got one of the largest companies in the world, one of the most successful ones, and saying, oops, that's not the right name, so yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And I love the name Amazon. It's a metaphorical name, and I'm a big fan of metaphorical names.
Yeah, me too. I believe it's best well done. So that, and I'm not trying to extract a name for free from you, but I'm just throwing some thoughts out there. Say, so
As long as, yeah, I'll throw out names for free. What do you need named?
so say for instance, you and me. So we've been quite successful in podcasting, and saying, and then the new world of the social media, artificial intelligence is another thing. A lot of things are happening. Social media is exploding still. It's still at the beginning. So what we want to do, we want to set up a platform that is globally attractive. Saying, okay, where do we give, what do you propose, John? Well, I propose something that if I look at Zuckerman and Facebook, extremely started in Little University, the whole story, and then grew aggressively, and saying, well, it's not the end of social media, it's the beginning, it's just starting. So what is important is the name and the market, and saying what is the marketplace, the globe, really, and saying, okay, what do we do first? We have to find a catchy name. And then
Yeah, wait.
what
Yeah.
are the elements that we should be looking at?
Well, one thing that is important to know is what's the personality of the brand. So is it conservative? Is it playful? Is it, trustworthy? Is it approachable? It can be more than one thing.
All the above. It would not be political. It's not right wing, left wing. It is trying to, the market would be people that care about knowing people. Like what we are doing now is that I've done 175, you did 175 on a podcast. All of them have to me been very, very interesting, because all of a sudden I meet Alexandra Watkins, from San Diego, California, and I'm sitting, 6, 7, 8 hours away by air from you, and we are already close and have already connections. That's what I'm looking for, is people that sit there as that they open their Facebook or their iPhone, and the first thing they look at is saying, I wonder what is happening on duh, 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 duh.
Okay, well, I think so. Let's just take podcasts, for instance.
Yeah.
So if you were, let's say you were doing a collective with some other podcasters, or let's say, yeah, so you wanted to do or building a podcast empire, because that's just what came to me, just being a circus animal and performing on command. I was thinking of the word pod. So what I would do is like, okay, what does pod rhyme with? And I know it rhymes with mod. And then I'm thinking, okay, what mod, like, oh, Mod Squad. I don't know if you remember that TV show, The Mod Squad, but so then I
No.
would think like, oh, Pod Squad. So like that's a name I would put on the list.
Something
So that's
catchy.
yeah,
Should
catchy.
we first talk to somebody? We deal with Podmatch, so, and maybe you do too. I don't know. That's maybe how we got connected.
No,
And,
we got connected to Mark Hirschberg.
pardon me?
Mark Hirschberg,
Okay.
he was on your show.
Who was on, do we know that,
Mark
Scott?
Hirschberg, he's the author. He wrote the Career Toolkit.
I'm not sure if he was on our show. Was he?
I could have sworn I saw him on your website today.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't. I think I subscribe to the podcast match or matchmaker. I don't know what it's called, but I use listen notes a lot to look up podcasts.
Okay. Yeah, I find it amazing how those, we have already podcasting for a while, and then, you talk to Scott probably somewhat, is quite involved with me here. And so then we said, we started local and regional here, and then we said, I'm going to have to set up an office or a studio in Vancouver so that I have a bigger circle and I have a place or an apartment that would be suitable. But then we said, how about doing that virtual? And so, and if I see CNN and those kind of places doing so much virtual already, is saying, so we started doing that. We have a good, nice studio here. It's an apartment that I owned already downtown Prince George. All behind us, you can see the city and the landscape. So we have good equipment, all of those kind of things. And so now probably 50% of our podcasts are virtual around the world. And so then we said, okay, where do we find the contacts? So we then hooked up with Podmatch, not all that long ago, a couple of months ago probably, and so that has worked well for us. Amazing connections all over the place. So it looks to me it is something that is still happening as we speak.
That's great. That's great. I one of my favorite podcasters is in Vancouver. His name is Dov Baron from the Leadership and Loyalty podcast. You know him, Dov? It's spelled Dov.
Okay.
Dov. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott is making notes here, so I don't know him. Yeah.
Oh, you should know him. He's fantastic.
Okay. So
He's very, very good podcaster. He's like super he reads very well read and asks interesting questions. Yeah. He's got a
yeah,
great show.
good. We'll check him out. So
Yeah.
and you do a lot of international as well.
International podcasts?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, I do. Not a lot, maybe 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I've been on 80 podcasts. I think about 80.
So you do a lot of guest work.
I
More.
do. I get invited to be on podcasts all the time. I think because I have an unusual topic, and it's like you said, you didn't know that naming was a profession, and just like I didn't know it was a profession, most people don't. And it's, when they find out, wow, there's people that actually get paid to name things, then they want to learn more.
Yeah, you're an excellent communicator, right? So, and that helps as well. So yeah. So just coming back then to but we hypothetically speaking, so you get a company name, you find out where the market is, and then from there on in, gradually you build up the pieces, and then you start looking at your mind and your library or your skill set of finding those connections, right?
Yeah, well, like today I was working on naming a new wine that is targeted at people that are patriotic. So, wait, are you still there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I couldn't see for a second. Yeah, so what I did today is I looked up, so I'm naming a wine targeted at people that are patriotic in America.
Okay.
So I looked up the lyrics. I used ChatGPT to get lyrics to patriotic songs. So I looked up all the lyrics to God Bless America, This Land Is Your Land, and all of the, classic, America the Beautiful, all of those songs. So
Yeah.
I looked up lyrics, and then I found some interesting names within those lyrics. Then I looked up, military terms because, military, very patriotic thing. So I looked up military terms, military ranks. I looked up names of, I looked up names of hate groups because in Hell's Angel motorcycle gangs because I wanted to make sure that none of my names were on any of those, right? Because you have to be
Right.
careful,
Yeah.
right? That's the last thing you want, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so interesting because just now, right before this call, I was looking up names of motorcycle gangs, right? And because Google localizes everything, it gave me motorcycle gangs in Ocean Beach, and that's where I live. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then I found gangs in Ocean Beach, and I'm like, there's gangs where I live. Right, I live in a beach town. So this article was from 1991, and there was a gang here called the Tuna Boys, which just sounds hilarious, right? Like the Tuna Boys. But where I live, so Ocean Beach is right in Point Loma, our sister towns. And Point Loma is a lot of fishermen, a lot of Portuguese fishermen. There were tuna fishermen, and there's a place here called Tunaville, like a neighborhood called Tunaville. And so the Tuna Boys were a Portuguese gang, and they would hang out at the grocery store parking lot and beat up people from other high schools and stuff. But like, that's what I love about my job.
Yeah.
Every day I learned something new and interesting and fun. It's just I never know. I go down so many rabbit holes, and for me, naming is it's going on a treasure hunt, right? Like I know, like I already have over 100 names, and there's more. I just keep going until I feel like I've exhausted, and then I have my team work on it too. But yeah, we try to exhaust every angle.
But you see, you have the ability or the mind that allows you to look in all the different areas and do all the unconventional things, and you keep going and doing that until you go bang. That if
Yeah,
that I got something, okay, I need a little more. How can I work on that and then build on that? And then all of a sudden you got it, bango, that's the one.
yeah, yeah. One of my favorite things to do is look just I like to read and skim and look for interesting words to jump out at me. And by the way, I also looked up all the words to the Declaration of Independence, like all of I just, I'm skimming, looking for interesting things. But one time I was naming a new line of men's athleisure wear. So athleisure wear is like it's like how women wear, yoga clothes, but they're not really working out. So this is for men, and my client was really into MMA fighting, and so I thought I'm going to look up famous movie fight scenes and famous movie chase scenes. And the internet's a great source to look for information because
Yeah,
people write all this stuff. So I was reading, I forget if I was reading about fight scenes or chase scenes, but it was something with Chuck Norris and or something about that, and I saw the phrase body stunt double. I'm like, oh, stunt double would make a really fun name for
right.
this line of leisure wear because here's these guys, sitting on the couch eating flaming Cheetos and like, us aspiring to be one of these people. Like that's their avatar, right? The stunt double.
Right.
So that became the name.
Wow. Amazing. Now, the other part, the other thing that we have now in terms of checking out different things and looking for different things other than Google is AI, artificial intelligence. What do you think about that one?
Well, at first I was very threatened by ChatGPT
Right.
because, as I'm sure a lot of people have been. But the more I use it, so I use it every day, but not really to name things, but more to like help me complete something.
Right.
Or, you know, um, a lot of times to help me write rationale for like write why this is a good name, give it some parameters, right? Why this is a good name, right? Why this name is patriotic. um but yeah, it's not good at coming up with anything clever. So for
No.
instance, I was naming a travel game for kids and families, and one of my names was Tripopotamus, like hippopotamus, but tripopotamus. And like, there's no way Chat GPT would come up with something like that.
No,
Or I had Fee Fi Fo Fun, Fee Fi Fo Fam. It's not coming up with those names
no,
either.
no.
It's super corny. And even today, I gave it 100 names that I had come up with for this wine, and I put them all in there and said, study these 100 names for a new red wine, Patriot, and come up with 50 names like it, and none of them were good. They were all really lame. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's not taking my job anytime soon, but it's
no.
definitely helped me.
Yeah, yeah. But the unique part about it is that it will lay in front of you likely a number of things that you say bingo, or where you say, I don't see anything there. So it will add to the selection and to make the selection process maybe easier. So, but it sure is in the news though, and it sure has the attention of a lot of people, more so all the time, and especially
Yeah.
on books and book writing and so and editing and a number of other things around that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been really helpful. It's great at writing letters or taking words and making them, you can put something in and say, make this stronger. Yeah, I've used it one time. My mom's 88 and she still drives. She's
Amazing.
not working out with you, but she does go on a walk for half an hour every day. And so I wanted to come, she always comes over to watch movies. So I put in, give me 100 movies with a theme, no violence, you know, not a lot of profanity, that have women themes around women, because my mom's a feminist, and like it
Right.
spit out all the movies, and there's no way I could have gotten that from Google.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. I never thought about it in that way, but yeah, it changes a lot of things. So by and large, Alexandra, I believe that it's a little bit feared by a lot of people initially, like you said, is that, but I believe it will be complementary, and the horse is out of what did you say? The bar is open and the horse is gone, or the cows are out of there, and
Yeah.
it will not go. The genie will not go back into the bottle. It is out there now, and it will just go in all kinds of different directions. And I was podcasting a guest here a couple of guests ago, and I mentioned AI, or artificial intelligence, and he really clicked in on it because he said he had totally changed direction in that he is really focusing on that area, and even so far as having websites and all of the other things around it. So it totally changed direction for him.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of opportunities out there with that. I'll tell you, one of the problems with ChatGPT, though, is, and the reason I do believe people are so resistant to it, is the name. It's not a friendly name. Everybody butchers it. They get it wrong because GPT doesn't roll off the tongue. It's not familiar to people. Chat is just weird because it's not like a chat bot. I mean, it's so much more than that. So I would have, by the way, I asked it one time, how can people remember? Because my boyfriend can never remember GPT. He always gets it wrong. So I said, what's the easy way to remember GPT? And ChatGPT gave me a bunch of acronyms, but one of them was Giant Pandas Typing, which I think is easy to remember because it's very visual, right? You can
Right.
imagine giant pandas typing very fast. But I would have named it Otto, OTTO, because it personifies it, because it starts to feel like a person, right?
Yeah.
And because it's to you, and it said, I hope I've done a good job. Let me know if you need anything else. So it speaks to you like a person, much more so than Alexa or Siri. I think it's
Yeah.
much more human.
Why
So
don't
Otto personifies it. It's friendly and approachable, and it's automatic. So it's got that little not kind of wink wink to it.
why don't you tell the world that's what you have decided and that's what it will be? Huh? Why not?
I don't think it's up to me to change it.
Why? Well, who will be upset about it?
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you. Like with Alexa, you can change the name of Alexa, right?
Right.
So with ChatGPT, we should be able to change the name of it as well.
Make it auto.
Otto.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bard is so old fashioned. It sounds like some like butler, like remember
Yeah.
Ask Jeeves? It's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Otto.
auto. It's catchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a palindrome, spelled the same way backwards and forwards.
So if you look for, is there two T's? Auto.
Yeah,
O T
OTTO.
T. I think it's
Oh,
perfect. Why
thank you.
don't you and me decide that's what it will be?
Okay.
Say we have decided this for all these reasons. Forward, backward, easy to remember, and it's a thing. It's not God knows what. It is a thing. It is, for all intents and purposes, a person. We can interact with Otto. Forward, backward, sideways. It's understood across the world, virtually, that certainly in Europe, and not only English, but in a lot of languages it's understood. You would just have to kind of put it in your system just to make sure. I was talking to somebody that had a name, Duana or Diana, and I said, is it maybe spelled this way? She said, no, don't do that because that's a bad word in Eastern Europe. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. You know.
Yeah, it's tricky with the foreign language translations, but I think a lot of times people like there's like the story of the Chevy Nova that, people, do you know that story?
It
Like,
was
and
a
that's just not
it was a
true. The Nova,
disaster.
but that's not, it's really an urban legend. It's not quite an urban legend, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't happen that way. It was one reporter made a joke. Like if you've ever heard people joke that Fiat stands for Fix It Again, Tony.
Oh,
It was kind of one of those jokes, like
yeah.
Nova won't go. That's all it was. One
Yeah.
reporter said it, and then
Yeah.
suddenly it became this thing. But yeah, no, it because the when it launched in Latin America, the all of the people in Latin America that were working on the car, right, developing the manuals for it and everything else, they would have. There's a gas station in Mexico called Nova. Like, if it wasn't a good name, they would have been warned.
Right.
And here's a way to think of Nova. So Nova, it would be like if there was a furniture set and it was called Notable. It would be like saying Notable. That's like no table. Does it not have a table with it? It's the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No one ever separates Notable into no table.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Interesting. So, what else comes to mind, Alexandra? That we covered a lot of ground already. What else? The is you kind of look forward now. You are still, compared to me, very young looking forward. You had a lot of career behind you and a lot of experience. So you kind of find that you found your direction going forward, or do you see other areas for exploring others, writing more books, doing more interacting on a platform, or do whatever, right?
Yeah, no more books. I have one book in me. I wrote it. I wrote it again and added a lot more to it. Maybe there will be another edition. I'm not sure, but no, I love what I do. I get very excited about it still, and you know how a lot of people burn out on what they're doing. I
Yeah,
love naming. Like, it's just so much fun for me,
it's your
and
passion, right?
it really is. It's the best. Yeah. It's great.
Now, on the presenting, are you pretty active on the circuit on speaking?
I'm not doing a lot of speaking right now because I haven't been flying lately because I have some weird motion sickness issue.
Oh no,
But I'll do speaking. I mean, it's, I've been to 50 countries, so I'm very well traveled.
I noticed that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but then I live in San Diego. It's beautiful here. My house looks like it looks like I live at a resort. But no, I'm not doing a lot of traveling right now. But I can do Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom presentations. But yeah, no, I just want to continue to name things. My sweet spot is food and beverage, where Eat My Words. My claim to fame is I named the Wendy's Baconator. I don't know if do they have Wendy's in Canada?
Yeah, they do have Wendy's, and I was going to ask you about that. The ones that I know, a friend of mine has franchises from Wendy's, but they are more burgers or that type of food.
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
yeah, yeah,
And and
yeah.
you
And the Baconator is probably the most famous burger on the planet.
okay?
It has its own Wikipedia page.
Okay, I should check it out. So that is, I should ask my friend about that. That if he, that's interesting that I had a discussion with you and you named the burger, the most
Well,
popular one.
and you know Arnold, right? He was the Terminator, and so you can tell him when I was naming the Baconator, it was inspired by the Terminator
How come?
because it's the Baconator and he's the Terminator. So it ends in, Ator.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah,
I
please
like
tell
it.
him.
I
Please
like.
tell him.
I will do that. So anything else comes to mind? We
Yeah,
nearly got an
yeah,
hour.
I want to tell your listeners that if they want to test the strength of their name, if they go to my website, eatmywords.com, and click on test a name, they can run it through a 12-point name evaluation test. They will tell them how strong it is. And I also have a free mini masterclass on my website, eatmywords.com. So yeah, I encourage people, if anyone wants to be inspired by before and after makeovers, that's on our website. Lots of fun names, and it's a fun experience to go there.
So give us your website once more. The name of your
Eat
website.
Yeah, it's eatmywords.com. Yeah,
Eatmywords.com. Okay.
right. My book is Hello, My Name is Awesome.
My name is awesome. It's sitting there on your side.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. And I will send you the books, all three of them. I will sign them for you. And I will send you an extra copy for your partner. What is his name?
Thank you so much. His name is Glenn with two N's.
Okay, so I will sign one for him as Glenn and then get you a copy of the ADHD as well. And we'll send
Thank
those
you
out
so
tomorrow.
much.
And our
Thank you so
podcast,
much. And I hope you read my book.
I appreciate that. And our podcast will be coming out tomorrow, Andrew. Yeah, we usually, our podcast will be the same as we have discussed it. There is no editing changes that we make to it. And that we send it out the following day, all of our podcasts. And
Wow.
the only time that we made a slight change that we considered making a change to a podcast is we had an earthquake of 4.6 and it shook the building. And in the 60 years that I've been here, it had only been the second small earthquake. The first one I didn't feel. This one, the whole building shook just when I introduced my guest. So, and I said, oh my God, what happened here? And blah, blah, blah. And then we left it in the podcast. So,
That's good because most people have never seen what happens in an earthquake.
yeah, here it kind of shook the building, and but we continued the podcast, and it became part of it.
That's great.
Alexandra, it was a pleasure to have you
Likewise.
on my podcast, and let's stay in touch, and we'll send the books out tomorrow, and I hope you enjoyed them, and then at some point, let's stay in touch and maybe podcast again 6 months, 8 months from now.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks, Alexandra. Take care.
Okay.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Bye bye.